As we come into this time of softening, filled with the infinite love of Spirit, I invite you to let your body soften, let your breath soften, and if you would like to find a simple gesture with your hands that holds the gesture that holds joy and sorrow, maybe your hands cupped, holding one under the other. Maybe just your palms open gently, opening to joy and sorrow, to pain and promise. Perhaps one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Soften into a gesture that resonates in your body and in your heart. As we soften into all this joy, hold lightly those beings that feed your joy, the moments of awe that have fed your joy. Soften into those moments where joy felt hard to see amidst all the sorrow. And hold those twin sides of a coin lightly, tenderly. As you soften into all this promise, the promise of all that is reborn in you, through you, moment by moment. The promise of the divine presence that is always with us, because we are always in it and of it. Softening even into those moments of pain, trusting that wherever we are, God is. That promise is to be with us always. As we soften into the suchness and isness that is life, that is our being, that is our aliveness in spirit, that is our life in love, as love. Filled with the infinite love of Spirit, created in the image of love, created to give and to receive, to house, the incarnation of the divine. That is you. And so it is, and so we are, called to be people of joy. Amen. Thank you. So here we are, people of joy. Joy, like hope and all virtues, according to the wisdom of Krista Tippett, is a choice that becomes a practice that becomes spiritual muscle memory. I've said that once or twice here from this space because I think it means so much to me to say it because I need to keep hearing it over and over again myself. That's what it means to practice, to have spiritual practices that help us land in the truth of who we are as we give ongoing birth to that divine presence in us and as us. Because our fully humanness keeps us forgetting. And so we practice our own showing up, our own choosing. And then we come into community to be renewable resources for each other. So here are a few words about joy. First from Henry Nouwen, who writes, "Joy is not the same as happiness. We can be unhappy about many things, but joy can still be there because it comes from the knowledge of God's love for us. Joy does not simply happen to us. We have to choose joy and keep choosing it every day. It is a choice based on the knowledge that we belong to God and have found in God our refuge, the ground of our being, our safety, and that nothing, not even death, can take God away from us. So, a joy, having a daughter come from Michigan to spend a week, a joy fills my heart with joy. A joy to look out my window last night where I was cozy and warm and see that cold, dark, starlit night. That's a joy. Seeing your faces on a Sunday, it's a joy to be here together. There are events, there are people, there are those serendipitous happenings that Carol read in the Daily Word that bring us joy, that bring us happiness, that give us a sense of contentment with where we are, that feed that underlying deeper level of joy that we sometimes have to actively step into, that we have to actively choose. Monday night here in this space, we held Circles of Hope with Roger and Joan Horgan and some friends from a lot of our spiritual paths. Was that just this past Monday? I'm not making that up. It was just this past Monday. Of all of the beauty of that night, one of the phrases that has really stayed with me is Joan talking about our hopes, those things that we hope will happen, the events, seeing people, how we want an outcome to be. We hope something will happen in that way. And yet, like the joy that we choose, there is a hope that we choose that is ours to step into despite outward appearances, despite what is happening around us. And I think that that says very much to me about joy today. I am hard-pressed. I'm not going to put my worries on you. I am hard-pressed to pay attention to what is happening in the world around me and stay merry and bright. I think that hope and joy and peace and compassion, we put on those virtues by means of choosing them over and over again in order to see all of that clearly, to see what is there for us to see, not to ignore it, not to just stay merry and bright in the world asks us to stay merry and bright, but to really choose to be people of hope and faith. We're called to see clearly where those wounds are in the world, to transform them with our spiritual awakening by seeing the divine essence in all beings, even those who have forgotten their divine essence. The message of Advent and the message of Christmas is not just sparkly. It is not light in the sense of easy. It is a message that calls us to stand firm in who we are as people of God. To not fall into despair, the despair that was alive in the time that Jesus was born, the despair that is alive in our historical moment now. We are called not to never experience sorrow, or never to experience hardship, or never to see a space where healing is needed in our own circles or in the wider world. We are called to see those things with eyes of love, with eyes of hope, with eyes of joy, trusting that underlying ground of our being that calls us into the ongoing new life of being incarnated, unrepeatable expressions of that divine presence. Eckhart Tolle writes in A New Earth, the joy of being, capital B, being, which is the only true happiness, cannot come to you through any form, possession, nothing that's under your tree, achievement. It cannot come from a person or an event. It cannot come through anything that happens, because it cannot come to us. That joy comes from us. It emanates, he says, from the formless dimension within, from our consciousness itself, and so therefore it is one with who we are. That kind of joy is a joy that emanates from an enduring encounter with God, an ongoing rebirthing encounter with God. My friend Star Regan DiCerchio writes about it in this way: how that joy and sorrow are connected. She writes, as we share our joy and our suffering, we come to know our humanity. It is at once extraordinary and singular, right? My suffering is mine. My joy is mine. It is extraordinary and singular, and it is timeless and universal. The particulars of our joy are known to us, but if we look deeply, they unite us to all who have been uplifted in that way. The depths of our sorrow feel isolating and beyond anyone else's comprehension. In fact, that very pain is a path to a true understanding of each other across all time and all cultures. Joy and suffering we encounter in the embracing of those two things in our life. All of the joys, all of the sorrows, all of the promise, all of the pain, we embrace that. And sometimes it takes courage to say yes to all of that. But that is where God within, God next to us, God everywhere is waiting for us in those encounters. So as we round out our Advent time of waiting, how is your divine spark being made ready for that continuous, ongoing birth of Christ consciousness in you? How are these days of deepening dark? We just passed from solstice into the returning of the sun, but we are still in the grip of cold and dark winter. How are those days inviting you to rest, to nurture your spirit, to nurture your body? How are you preparing not just your festive home, but your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body, to receive and embody hope and faith, joy, peace, love? We're called to embody those gifts. Tomorrow's daily word is believe. Here's a little sneak preview. Believing is faith in action, a way to hold positive expectancy that the goodness of God is always coming into the world. When there seems to be evidence to the contrary, when people act in ways that do not reflect their divine nature, I do not despair. Instead, I pray the goodness and grace of God flow through me to touch and heal lives. I believe. These words fill my mind and heart and are the truth of my life. We are called, as we embody the Christ, as we embody those gifts of spirit, as we say yes to who we are called to be, we bring healing wherever we are. In small ways, sometimes in ways that call a lot out of us. So moment by moment, choice by choice, we were made for times like these. because here we are. We're invited to see all of life in its fullness. Those moments filled with happiness and pleasure, the tender moments of love, moments filled with awe-inspiring beauty, moments of peace and transcendent joy, and those moments that break our heart. When the darkness of the evidence to the contrary threatens to lead us to despair. As people of faith, we believe wherever we are, God is. The ever-present goodness of the Holy One is always coming into the world. We make a choice. We practice hope. We practice peace. We practice love and compassion. We practice joy. We let our spiritual muscle memory grow strong by holding those practices to the light, by sharing those practices together as we create beloved community. And in a couple of days on Christmas Eve, we'll remember the story of Mary's yes to God's call. We'll remember Jesus as the incarnation of divine presence, and we'll be invited once again into our own yes, to live in the fullness of our incarnations as divine presence. Rejoice. Rejoice. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Rejoice. Rejoice nonetheless. Rejoice despite. Rejoice regardless. Rejoice still. Rejoice where we had ceased to rejoice. Find joy amid what threatens joy. Find joy beyond what we had rejoiced in. Find joy, choose joy that draws us past our limits. Choose joy that defies expectations. Choose joy that questions what we have known. Choose joy that makes a way where there is none. Choose joy that takes us past our fear. Choose joy that calls us into life. Choose joy that holds us beyond death. And choose joy that blesses those to come. Rejoice. Rejoice. And so it is. Amen.